everybody. Welcome to another IncGamers Podcast Spectacular with me, Peter Parrish, and some other people. Those other people are Paul Younger.
Good evening.
Tim McDonald. Hello, Tim McDonald. Tim McDonald playing FTL currently.
No, actually, I was talking to someone about what I suspect will be our first news item of the week.
Ooh. Yeah, did everyone have time to read my schedule? It got written quite late.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get it.
Oh, you didn't get it? Oh, sorry. Yeah, last night...
he did get it. He just doesn't read his fucking emails. Even when you send it to him 3 days in advance, he doesn't read it.
I
never do that. I never do that. Yeah, no, I had no electricity last night, so I couldn't send around the podcast agenda because some drunken, crazy person was driving down our road at like 90 miles per hour, and someone swerved to avoid them and ran into a telegraph pole and knocked down the power lines.
Nice.
So I had no power for all evening, and it came back at like 2 a.m. or something. So.
Did you say that he was drunk or something, or...?
She was drunk, yes.
Was it a student? Because I know you live in a student area.
No, she was like 53 or something, it said in the news item. So,
was she out drinking with students?
Possibly. That's always a possibility.
Fucking students.
Yeah, that's right, it was their fault.
Are her children students?
Technically, the power lines thing was the guy who swerved to save his own life, but I feel a bit churlish blaming him for anything.
I'll blame him. I'm in a bad mood. I'm happy to piss off anyone.
Anyway, everyone was okay, amazingly. The drunken lady crashed in a field outside of town, apparently, but was also okay. So.
Notice how neither Tim and I asked you, was everyone okay?
Yeah, no one obviously didn't really care.
Well, you live in America, and isn't like the penalty for doing stuff? Isn't it like the death penalty anyway? So
I don't think so. This lady had a bit of a record, which included kidnapping, and she was still driving around the place drinking. So she'd been getting off with quite a few things.
Man, I've got to stop watching Fox News. It's giving me entirely the wrong idea about your country.
Exciting times in Washington State. Anyway, the first proper news item outside of local news. Is that Steam has been exploited with something I know nothing about, but which has the exciting name of a Heartbleed, which sounds like some sort of soft rock song or maybe a Mortal Kombat move. I don't know anything about this, really. Paul, you wrote it, and I think, Tim, you researched it. So between you, I'm hoping to learn about this. Anyone? Steam? Can I log on to Steam yet? Is it safe?
I did talk to a real, actual web developer about this just now, 30 seconds ago. Or whenever we started the podcast. My sense
what did he have to say about things, or she?
He said that it's like a 2-year-old bug that's been known about for absolutely ages.
Good.
Though apparently nobody realised that it's worked on Steam until yesterday.
Okay.
Although you do have to wonder, I suppose, whether people did realise it worked on Steam. Just didn't tell anybody
because they wanted to take advantage. What does it do? What can the bad men's do to you on Steam?
It's an OpenSSL bug which apparently lets you basically read the memory of systems using OpenSSL, and you can like steal all the datas.
Okay, all of the datas.
The ramifications, from what I've been told, and I should add that this isn't according to other web dev, but according to interweb speculation. So take this with a large field of salt.
Yeah.
But yeah, speculation is that, other than sort of stealing passwords and usernames and so on, it could also result in people kind of nicking the developer versions of games up on Steam, which is a little bit bigger than nicking passwords.
Well, at least if that happens, we'll have lots of news to report in the next week.
We will, yeah.
So look at the bright side.
Yeah, I will be on the Pirate Bay later tonight looking for leaked versions of all sorts of games that aren't out yet. Sorry, that was very bad of me. I mean the Pirate Bay or other similar sites, because I don't want to.
No favoritism.
Show sponsorship now.
Pirate Bay are the best one, though, aren't they? Probably.
Where is this podcast going?
I know I use
Sorry,
Pirate Bay
I'm
for all
in a
my
bad
Game of
mood.
Thrones needs.
I'm in a bad mood. I'm hungry. Anyway.
Well, yeah. Aside from the illegal aspects of what you just said there, the the proof of whether dev builds can be stolen through this method will probably be if they start popping up everywhere in the next few days. Do we know what Valve is doing about this? Hopefully stopping it.
No.
Probably creating a series of hats called Heartbleed to sell on Dota 2 Team Fortress 2 store.
I got hacked on Steam, so I got this free hat.
Yep, that's probably about it. And the thing is, they will have to give them so many people. The actual price of these things on Steam Marketplace will be about 2p.
They probably aren't aware of this because people will be mailing Doug Lombardi and they'll just be going straight into his trash.
Apparently Steam DB, which is, I think, the site that found it, you would know more about that than...
Yeah, Steam DB, yeah.
Well, apparently they did let Valve know before they sort of made this information public, so... With a bit of luck, Steam will actually have paid a bit of attention to them, if nothing else.
Alright. Okay. So while I eagerly await the email telling me to change my password and that everything's completely fine, even if it isn't.
Do you think they'll do that? Or do you think that Valve want to be seen as sort of the secure bastion so they won't bother? Just in case people haven't heard about this, they're not going to publicise it anymore.
I don't know. I don't know.
Then people might investigate alternatives and discover that actually, things like Origin do have a refund policy.
Although I think in the hacking stakes, Origin and Uplay aren't doing too great. I think either of those have both fallen foul of that at least once. So
doesn't that pretty much just mean that they're pretty much like on the same level as Steam now?
No, yeah, pretty much. I thought.
Except that they have like refund policies, so.
I don't know about Uplay. I don't know if they have a refund policy.
Yeah, you have a point there. Nobody cares about Uplay.
They do have their own internal achievement system, though, where you play Assassin's Creed for a bit, and then you can unlock a new Assassin's Creed outfit, which
and a wallpaper.
Oh yeah. I'm always sure to spend the cash on the wallpapers, like it's the 90s or something.
Yeah, you inevitably. It's always like it's a wallpaper is like 10 Uplay reward points or whatever.
Yeah. And then you maybe get a sword or something, and then
and a costume and maybe a mission or something like that if they're feeling really generous. I remember when they did that with I think it was Rocksmith. They kind of locked away a couple of songs. They weren't big important songs by any stretch of the imagination. I think they were sort of developer done ones or smaller indie bands, which was actually kind of nice. It was something vaguely worthwhile for a change.
Yeah.
Rather than a wallpaper.
It would be nice if the songs were just kind of in the game. I mean,
well, that's the thing. This I suppose this is technically on-disc DLC, isn't it?
Yeah, although you only have to jump through some really minor hoops to be able to get it.
It's basically you get this shit by playing the game.
Yeah, which you should be doing presumably if you like it.
Isn't that how like content works in most games? Like you can't do the last mission, you can't do the last area of Dark Souls 2 until you do the previous ones.
Yes, they shamefully.
It's that bullshit on disc DLC though, Peter.
They shamefully gate some of the latter parts of the game behind all these bosses. What bastards. Anyway.
Yeah, I've paid my money for the game. I want to be able to do what I want with it. There's nothing nothing in a book, that prevents me from turning to the last chapter because I'm too shit to understand the second chapter. I'm sorry.
Have you ever known people who've done that, who actually go at the end of books and like read the last couple of pages? Because I have, and I don't understand those people. Those people are weird. Whoa.
Well, I know people who go into games, they kind of find the walkthrough first and find all of the exploits before they play it because they find that more fun because they're fucking weird.
Anyway, so hey, apparently we're all going to need like octo-core processors in the very near future because all the recent games, well, not all of them, Hotline Miami 2 isn't, but some of the recent games announced are demanding mighty processors and 8 gig of RAM. I'm talking about Watch Dogs, which was actually the system specs were revealed in October or something last year. Then they came out again and everyone got excited even though they were the same. And they're joined by Shadow of Mordor, which also wants some beefy processor and 8 gig of RAM and some fat graphics card.
I have several questions about this. First, do we think that the game is actually going to require these?
No, I mean the minimums. The minimums are. I forget what the minimums are for Watch Dogs. The Shadow of Mordor ones. There was a relatively nice spread between minimum and recommended.
If it can run on Xbox, it can probably run on most PCs out there capable of playing anything released within the last year.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I can't remember what my other question was, but it was probably something vaguely insulting to somebody.
Was it like, oh, does that mean it's going to be a really unoptimized PC port?
No, but that's a good question. Does that mean it's going to be a really unoptimized PC port, Peter?
I don't know, maybe. I haven't played them, so I couldn't tell you. I didn't think that much of Assassin's Creed 4's PC port. It was kind of okay, but it appeared to have scalable elements, but really when I changed them it didn't make a great deal of difference to my performance. I don't know if that meant I was limited by my slightly old processor or what, but
I don't recall having too much issue with Assassin's Creed 4 really.
I
remember
terrible.
When loading into a new area, when it was kind of streaming the area in, it would occasionally judder for a second, but that was about it.
You know how normally if you want to get like closer to 60 frames per second, you go to like shadows and put them on low, and turn the textures down and do stuff. Yeah, well, doing that basically didn't really make any difference. I could go from sort of dipping below 30 to sort of getting above 30 towards 40, but it kind of wasn't making a huge amount of difference, which suggests, I guess, there was some kind of bottleneck somewhere.
Haven't they been saying for Watch Dogs though that they were kind of developing it for PC?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I mean, all of the footage that we saw of the game that's ever been seen running live was almost certainly on PC.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, there is no way that was an Xbox 360.
No,
I've got an Xbox 360. They can't do that.
Yeah, some of the more recent Watch Dogs trailers looked a bit more 360-ish in terms of what they look like, i.e. not as good as the E3 stuff.
I would like to add, actually, just so that I'm, I don't have people accusing me of being a Sony fanboy, the PS3 is shit too.
Totally is.
Tim,
Cell stuff. What's that all about?
Tim, you're really playing fair today.
Yeah.
I'm an equal opportunities offender, Paul. I take pride in that.
We've upset students, but who cares? We've upset the 360 and PS3 owners, but who cares?
Valve, nobody gives a shit about them. Not even Microsoft and Sony give a shit about them, as has been made abundantly clear over the past few years. Who else? Valve, Uplay, Ubisoft.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting about the Watch Dogs specs was that they were saying, oh yeah, you need like an 8-core processor, and then listed some that weren't actually 8 cores. So I don't know, because the i7 only has 4, and then 4 hyper-threading ones or whatever, which maybe counts as 8 in some eyes, but it's not really 8.
They probably just cut-paste the stuff from October and just thought, oh, sod it, we'll just put that out. That'll do, that'll keep them happy.
I mean, who knows if the Shadow of Mordor ones are out very, very early. I have my doubts about whether these are the finalised PC specs, because it's not out till October. Watch Dogs is May, so it's obviously a bit closer, quite a bit closer, but anyway, I guess we'll see how it runs on our various machines, and we'll see whether we actually needed all this stuff. I'm a bit concerned though that they're just going to start beefing stuff up now that because the Xbox One and the PS4 have like multi-core processors, don't they? I know overall they're not massively powerful, but they do have multiple threads and stuff, so maybe we'll see more games utilising that on PC as well.
They do also, and this is to be, serious for a second, not just deliberately trying to upset everyone. They do have very specialised architecture. They are designed to run the stuff that they run, while the PC is kind of designed to do everything. Which does give them a bit of an advantage in terms of performance, although not one that can still match a particularly powerful PC.
Indeed. On to my favourite subject, which is the Dark Souls 2 PC version.
Here we go.
No, look, we know now what the PC version is, as has been kind of suspected for a while. It is basically a 60 frames per second, nice resolution, slightly better texturified version of the console release. Whatever fancy lighting, demo build, shenanigans was going on at the Tokyo Game Show and E3 that's all gone. Whether that was in the whole game ever, who knows? Probably not. So what we just have now is basically what the version of the first Dark Souls should have been on PC, which is a higher resolution, higher texture quality, 60 frames version of the game, which honestly I'm pretty fine with. It's only the fact that we saw slightly nicer footage earlier on that I'm kind of slightly disappointed. But
so what score are you giving it, Peter?
11 out of 11.
Bullshit.
Well, they haven't sent us code yet, so as per our new policy, we're going to give it 1 out of 10.
I really like this new policy.
If we don't get review code in time, it goes up with a 1.
Yeah, we are fed up, listeners, with getting review code late or whatever. You know, we're not happy with this, not after sort of Thief and stuff like that. So if we don't get review code on time, if we see reviews start going up, we haven't got code, then the game automatically gets a 1 out of 10 just to fuck with the publisher's Metacritic rating.
Yeah.
We're going to bully publishers, basically. We're going to see how that works.
They're bullying us by not giving us code.
While we're on the subject of reviews, actually, I was dismayed to see Elder Scrolls Online reviews appear at the weekend. It's just
after code went out like a week before that, maybe?
It's just so depressing, the state of reviews. It really is. It just makes me want to weep.
Let's see. How much could you have potentially really played the Elder Scrolls Online since getting that review code? Do you reckon you could have committed yourself to like 10 hours a day?
Let's see. Well, I think that people could. There are people who could probably have been playing it for 16 hours a day if they were doing basically nothing but sleeping and playing Elder Scrolls Online. And that is depressingly plausible.
Yeah.
So it's 168 hours in a week. So 16 hours a day. That's 112 hours.
Yeah. All right. Okay. If you got the review code and you played it for 16 hours every day, then yes, you've probably reviewed it.
Trust me,
it's
that
an MMO, Peter. You haven't played MMOs. 112 hours is nothing.
Just reading a couple of them, that did not happen. I can tell you that now.
You mean they weren't talking in depth about the end game of the MMO?
One of them,
look, end game content. That's an MMO thing.
One of them didn't even talk about the combat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so they played it for at least 15 seconds.
Yeah.
They maybe got as far as character creation.
Yeah, I don't think that's a time thing. That just seems like a massive oversight to me. Yeah, how long does it take you to get to fighting someone in Elder Scrolls after
About
character
30
creation?
seconds after you create your character. You start in a jail cell. You have a little... Well,
of course you do. It's an Elder Scrolls game.
Exactly. They got that true to form. You start in a jail cell, and you have a chat with a sort of spirit who tells you you have to go and find him, and some rioting prisoners unlock your jail cell, and you run out and get a weapon, and then you're fighting a skeleton.
Right. So that's pretty quickly then, unless you get really heavily into character development and creation.
Yeah.
A week.
Well, in fairness, I did spend quite a while in character creation. What I didn't do, however, was immediately leave the cell and then start investigating every fucking urn and crate and box that I could click on in, again, what is traditional Elder Scrolls gameplay. So, in fairness, it probably could take maybe 4 or 5 hours before you get to combat, I guess.
Yeah, but that's still quite slack if you've played it for less time than that, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if they've talked about, stuff beyond the jail cell, that kind of suggests they did do some fighting. So there we go. Was I done with Dark Souls 2 on PC? I'm not sure.
No, it is. No.
So just to say then that basically those shots that were removed from Steam with the lighting, do you think that was down to the fact that it isn't in the game and it was a misrepresentation of what people are going to get, and they've just kind of ripped them out?
Yeah, I think people had started, like myself, asking them about it, and they perhaps realised, oh yeah, we've got these shots on Steam that are from these older videos that were from, whatever kind of build had that in it.
God, I hate it when you're right.
And they took them down. Yeah,
I hate it when you're right. Stop writing news stories that are right.
I quite like it when Peter's right because it upsets people. It does, again, lessen the chance of us actually getting review code on time. So yeah.
Was it because I wrote in that article that the way Namco had handled the advertising of this game was deplorable? Do you think that might be why they're not giving us preview code of it?
Probably. I think that was also why we may have had problems with Thief when every single news story we wrote, barring one, out of about the 12, 13 we wrote, was basically, wow, this game looks shit. And I think that one was basically, this trailer looks quite good, but it's probably lies.
Well, let's
it was.
It was, yeah. Well, let's face it.
We're right. That's not the point.
We're not here to keep the publishers happy.
That's what I just said.
Really?
This is the one problem with us being right.
Mm. Yeah, well, never mind. We'll probably get some Dark Souls 2 code eventually. Otherwise, Paul,
because
an early birthday present.
I admit I would be slightly surprised if you don't wind up giving it, at the very least, a 9 out of 10. And that's if it's a broken port.
Well, it's not though. I already know it's not because I've seen it moving. I've seen moving images of it. And I'm already excited.
How do you know that that doesn't mean it's a broken port, Peter? We were just talking about a Thief trailer. That was moving images.
Well, this was just the Giant Bomb guys playing it for like an hour. It was pretty conclusive. I mean, maybe the netcode's horribly broken though. That could fuck it.
Well, that didn't fuck the first game.
Well, yeah, that's true.
On any system, everybody liked that.
It works half the time. Anyway, yeah, enough about that. Paul, you've spoken to the VR chap, the Totem guy, or whatever his VR device is. It called Totem, or is it called something else?
Yeah, no, it's Totem. It's code name. It's True Player Gear, Canadian company.
Yes.
Who sort of miraculously. Well, they didn't miraculously, actually. It's just that nobody had really noticed. Decided to sort of come out and say, "Oh, here's our VR stuff." When Oculus got their big investment, so yeah, we had a chat with him last week, and a lot of interest in it. Tim, you're gagging to say something. Go on.
You're going to upset someone again. Don't upset the nice Totem people.
I was just going to say, is he Polish? Because I would quite like to refer to him as the Totem Pole.
Oh, Jesus. God, get out. Leave.
Oh, wow. Damn, that's good. He said that he would never have gone with Facebook.
Yeah, see...
You believe
What
him?
the hell else was he going to say?
Yeah.
Do you believe him?
Seriously?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is he's under... Since they've announced, he's under a lot of pressure from, obviously, with the Kickstarter backers. Some of them not particularly happy with what's happened with Oculus. I kind of feel that that's the kind of he's playing on that a little bit and using that to his advantage. I mean, let's face it, if someone had offered you 400 million, it's all very well in hindsight to say I'm not going to take it. And you know, if someone gives you 400 million to get your product off the ground and you become market leader, I think you're going to take it.
If there is anyone wanting to invest $400 million in IncGamers, we're probably open to looking at that as a serious offer.
I will try not to offend you.
As much as I'd like to say, nah, we tell them to fuck off, we probably wouldn't do that. We'd probably say yes.
Yeah, we don't want your 400
million. I'm quite a
million.
big fan of money. It lets me eat.
Yeah, it's good like that.
So anyway, yeah, I mean it's interesting. He's getting ready. They're getting a build ready for E3 to actually demonstrate. This is their 5th sort of developer version they've put together. They have been doing it for 9 years, so it's, you know, they've been obviously watching what the Rift's been doing, looking at the technology, changing the way their technology works. So the Rift's helped them probably progress, you know, quicker than they might have done. But it's still really early days, and I think until people actually see it in action, you know, we can't really comment on it. But I mean, they're saying all the right things. That's the main thing. And I think a lot of people who are maybe a bit not too happy with the Facebook acquisition will certainly take a serious look at this. I mean, I know I'll definitely like to have a shot of it, but we'll see how it works out after E3 and during E3 when people have actually had some hands-on time with it.
Yeah, I mean, most people who use these things tend to come out of it going like, all right, yeah, I'm converted now.
No.
I didn't.
No? Oh, okay. I was wrong. I'll take all that back.
I think
I didn't write that as a
In
news story.
fairness, I'm not really I don't like anything.
Yeah.
So I'm not
God
really
damn.
good.
I think the problem with this is, and this was the problem, always been the problem with VR, is that unless the game is really specifically made for it, you're never going to get the best experience from it. And I think that is probably the most important thing. So when you see games like it's Loading Human and things like that are being specifically developed for VR, then that's when it'll come into its own. But we're still so much in its infancy in the second stage of buzz around VR. I think probably by the end of the year, beginning of next year, we might see some more interesting things appear, and then it will become a worthwhile option to look at. But I don't think gamers are going to jump on the VR bandwagon. Early adopters will, and say it's the best thing since sliced bread. But for the general masses, I don't know. But maybe Sony's Morpheus thing might help a little bit too.
Wasn't Dark Souls 2 the best thing since sliced bread, though? Haven't we had loads of things that are the best thing since sliced bread? Isn't it about time we update that idiom?
Sliced fruit bread is better than sliced bread.
Yeah, but even that's quite old.
Yeah.
What's the newest thing? What's the newest thing that's better than sliced bread?
What's the newest sliced thing? What have they brought slicing to recently?
Oh my god, where the hell are we going now?
I don't know. Anyway, I read something
isn't slicing like a cyberpunk term for hacking and?
I don't know. You're down with the kids, Tim.
I'm gonna Google this.
Is it similar to a vertical slice, which is such a wanky term, but it means like demo build? I think when people talk about a vertical slice of a game that they're showing at a show or something.
Oh, there's all sorts of.
I had something to say about VR, but I've forgotten it.
I'm on Wikipedia, which is the bastion of all knowledge, and apparently there's loads of computery stuff to do with slicing, so maybe we should say the best thing since
slicing,
object slicing or program slicing.
Yeah.
I wish I'd never used the phrase sliced bread now. Jesus.
Yeah.
Tim, you've been awake too long today, I can tell.
Oh, I'm just hungry, Paul. I haven't eaten in like 8 hours.
Oh, it's the word bread that did it.
Low, my blood sugar level, it's...
Don't worry, we're almost done.
We're not even through the news.
We're almost done with the news. I just to add something about the whole the VR ports thing. I was reading something by Gary Newman, not the Our Friends Electric Gary Newman, but the Gary's mod Gary Newman, who was saying exactly that. That the games, they need to be created specifically for VR, which I think was along the lines of what Valve was saying at the Dev Days talk. The Valve people there are now at Facebook, of course, or at Oculus. But
it's just common sense, really, because the controls and everything have to be designed for you having a screen strapped to your head.
Yep.
You don't just whack a shooter in there. Come up with some new. Let's have some new genres. We've got this whole new experiential device. Let's invent something.
Well, interestingly enough, actually, Farm 51, which are doing Get Even, have been saying that they're experimenting with the Rift now to sort of bring that into the game, where basically it could take you to like a different reality in the game. So they might have different game. They're going to try and use it to actually tell the story and have gameplay elements around that. How that would work if you don't have one, I have no idea. But at least they're trying.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's an entirely new interface. It's an entirely new thing in lots of ways. It's like one of the things that I lament about other systems, handheld systems, is that people keep trying to port console games and PC games to the mobile phone or to the Vita or the DS or whatever, and it just doesn't work. They're different systems with entirely different, everything behind them. They've got different controls, different requirements. You use them at different times, and it's just converting one form of media to a new interface doesn't really work.
Indeed. Alright, that's the news, Tim. You're closer to eating. Games. I don't know what people played this week because I've kind of forgotten. Actually, wait, no, I know what you played, Tim. Just remember.
I wrote like 2 pages about that.
Okay. Well,
I detailed my entire play experience. I am starting to heal psychologically a little.
Do do you have more Reaper of Souls information to divulge, Paul?
Well, yeah, I'm done with it now. Review's done. In fact, it'll be up. Well, when this goes out. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it actually. So much to the point where I think I said to you yesterday, I was in the pissing rain in Dorchester on Saturday, wandering the streets, and it popped in my head going, I wish I was playing Reaper of Souls right now. So,
was it the gothic atmosphere of Dorchester that led you to think that?
No. Yeah, I was going to say, in fairness, if I was in Dorchester, I'd probably be wishing I was basically doing anything else.
I've never been to Dorchester, I can't comment.
No, neither have I, but I hadn't insulted anyone from Dorchester yet except the students. So.
It's like I've had Dorchester listenership.
Yeah, it's a pretty weird place actually, but anyway.
Dorchester, it's okay, you're still better than Bridgewater.
Dorchester, more like Worcester.
Anyway.
Dorchester, more like Torchester.
Oh, God.
Anyway, yeah.
Torchester.
Look,
that's...
Yeah.
You're setting. See, you're as bad as him. You're setting him off. It's like a chain reaction.
Tell us about Reaper of Souls, Paul. Has it saved Diablo 3?
I think it's 90% saved Diablo 3. I think put it this way. I think Diablo 3 is back, and I think the Diablo franchise is back. I think they've done everything right to set the foundations moving forwards. The change in personnel was a great move. They get it. They understand it now, which I think was a big problem before. It's more interesting for people that played the originals for lengthy periods of time. There's an incentive to go back and play it. There's actually there'll be a video actually embedded with the review. So go and check it out. It was Ellie went and collected 100 heraldic caches, which are things that you gain from bounties. Just to see what you get if you actually collected 100 of these things. And I think in the last bag that she opens up, she gets 4 legendaries out of it. Now, before
you just spoiled the ending of this video by
the review's already be up on the site, Tim. It'll be up yesterday, if you see what I mean.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So
we're retroactively spoiling it.
Yeah, I mean that's the huge shift. There are also stuff like monster power, which is now gone, and everything scales. And I think they weren't too sure about actually making everything scale, like the mob scale with your level and so on. But they went with it anyway, and I think it was the absolute right move. It's fun to play. Everything when you play it, it just feels right. And I think that's what was missing before. I'm really pleased actually they've got it back. It's one of the franchises that I've loved on the PC, and I think Diablo 3 was just the original game was just such a disappointment if you kept playing it for a long period of time. If you played it and just did the story and put it down, then you probably got enough out of it. But anyone who really likes to play the Diablo series for lengthy periods of time didn't get much from it. But I think this rectifies that. My only issue with it is probably the price of what they're selling it for. But as I say in the review, which actually I'm not going to tell you here, just go and read the bloody review. So you go and read that. But yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I recommend it. I think.
Is it 10 out of 10?
It wasn't a 10 out of 10. I can retroactively spoil. I'm not going to say what it was though. You should go and read it to find out. I've got one issue with it. Is there's a thing in there called the Nephilim Rifts, and they spell Nephilim wrong. I'm curious about why they do that.
Oh, I don't know.
Did they spell Nephilim wrong, or did Paul spell Nephilim?
No, I checked this. I checked this via Google, I guess, and either everyone writing about Diablo 3 is spelling Nephilim wrong as well,
which is possible.
It is possible.
What are you trying to say, Tim?
Or they've just changed the spelling for some reason. So yeah. There you go. If you're into sort of mythological, biblical creatures and are wondering about that spelling, now you know.
I must admit that was top of my list of things that I needed to know.
Well, it just you kept writing about it in your review, Paul, and I was like, this isn't how you spell Nephilim. What's going on?
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry if it upset you.
It wasn't you. It wasn't you. It was the
game. Actually remember that when I played Diablo 3 originally, and then it slipped my mind for however many years it's been. I think I kind of let that slide on the basis that transliterating Hebrew, you can probably let people off with that one.
Fair enough. Maybe it's just an alternative spelling I'm not aware of.
It's the American spelling.
Oh, right, yeah. The American Nephilim.
In that case, what's it doing on our site? Every time I see a game, like an American game which spells armor without the U, I put it in.
Yeah, you have to put it in. But that's site policy, Tim. Proper
no
spelling.
Wonder we don't get any people reading those stories because it confuses Google.
Confusing them.
Yeah. Well, both of us, Tim and I, played some Chaos Reborn last week.
That was quite good. The random number generator fucking hates me.
It does. Poor Tim.
Tried summoning like 5 monsters in a row, and every single one, failed.
Yeah. You kind of pulled it back towards the end of the second game, though.
I think that was just because I summoned a shitload of tentacles and then sat there giggling until you came out with a dragon.
Yeah, I summoned a dragon and it was a real one. Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking about the attempted kickstarting of Chaos Reborn, which is kind of a remake, kind of a sequel to Chaos from the 1980s, made by Julian Gollop, who also made Laser Squad, Rebel Star, Chaos, obviously, XCOM or UFO, Enemy Unknown, whatever it was called in the EU. So yeah, quite a big name in game development, obviously, and he's now trying to fund this Chaos Reborn thing, and we were able to play a kind of early prototypey version that doesn't have all the spells in yet and is kind of missing animations and stuff like that, but was otherwise fully playable, and I had fun casting magic bolts at Tim's wizard and making him explode. It was good times. Feels a lot like the original Chaos to me.
It's very, very early, like you said, but most of the mechanics are there, and that pretty much proves that it's as solid a game concept as it ever was. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, which feels a bit weird to say considering how early on it actually is. It was really
you just said you don't like anything earlier.
Clearly I lied.
Apparently. Here we go.
So when's the Kickstarter finish for this? Is it still going now?
Pretty soon. It runs out in a few days' time. Possibly Google for that now.
Yep.
So you, from what you've seen so far, then you recommend people went and shelled out some cash for this?
Well, if they enjoyed the original Chaos and would like to play a version of that with online multiplayer and all those other bells and whistles that can bring it into a contemporary into the contemporary age, certainly, yeah. That's he's got a good proof of concept. I mean, he's got through he's gone through the Steam greenlight process as well, much as we all love that. He's been approved on that to be sold on Steam, so not that means anything in terms of a quality game, but it's just good for them.
The Kickstarter has 8 days to go, and it's currently at $135,000. It needs $180,000.
Yeah.
Well, while finding this, I did also find other people who apparently played it against Julian Gollop while interviewing him. I'm going to assume they got horsewhipped.
I don't know, because there is it's interesting. He puts quite a. I actually sent like an interview to him to where I've asked him about this. He puts a lot of semi-random elements in his games, which is something that sort of tactical and strategy games don't tend to do so much these days, because you get the grognards going like, oh, it's random and it's not fair. It's like, fuck you. Some games can be random, it's fine.
Yeah,
which adds quite an interesting element where, sometimes you have a run of bad luck, like you did, Tim, where all your spells fail in a row. But
the thing is, there's ways of mitigating that. That's where the strategy lies. It's not a strategy where, like in chess, you can just go, oh, well, if I do this, there are only 3 moves that you can make, and then blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because it's more a case of, if I do this, it might work, it might not. What can I do to create a backup plan in case it doesn't work, and what can I do to maximise my chances? Like, my spells failed, but one of the things with Chaos is kind of the world's tendency, as I've started calling it, because it reminded me of Demon Souls. Wherein the spells you cast kind of change. If you cast Chaos spells, it makes Chaos spells easier to cast and Lore spells more difficult to cast. So kind of you want to plan out in advance when you want to cast your spells. It's the same thing as in the recent XCOM remake in broad terms, in that what you want to do is you can't ever be 100% certain that something's going to work, and it's a case of mitigating the disasters. If you put all of your eggs in one basket, you are going to lose.
It reminds me a lot of Blood Bowl, where in Blood Bowl, the key, crucial, and optimum strategy for Blood Bowl is make all of your moves in reverse order of risk. Do everything that you can do without rolling a dice first, then start doing things where you need to roll a couple of dice, but you'll probably get away with it. And then if you do get away with it, then go on to the super risky moves. And it's just about mitigating the risk of the random elements. And sometimes you do get a bit screwed over. But the chances are, in a couple of turns, your opponent is going to get screwed over by something as well. So it's balanced in that sense.
Yeah, there are certainly games that you will lose because you had an incredible run of bad luck, or your opponent had an incredible run of good luck, and that's going to happen. That's part of it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't tend to happen too much, simply because of the way the random elements work, and the fact that, as I said, a lot of the strategy is simply mitigating the random elements as much as you can. Which, and I know that Grognards would disagree with me on this, is kind of one of the principles of most combat, as far as I can remember. No plan survives contact with the enemy.
Yeah, it has quite a board game heritage to it, I think. Even though it sort of never was an officially released board game, I believe I'm right in saying he did design it as a kind of card-based board game first, before it was a Spectrum game. And it kind of shows. Yeah,
there are really similar board games. I think there's one called Whiz War, which is kind of
sounds like a pissing contest. So.
Yeah, it really does. I'm just going to Google that to make sure I've actually got the name right. Yes, Whiz War. You've kind of got a dungeon with wizards fighting it out in there, and you have various cards, and the wizards are incredibly squishy and easy to kill, and you can do all sorts of stuff to kind of change things in your favour. You've got a deck full of spells. You can sort of knock down walls, summon monsters, hurl fireballs at each other, or whatever.
Sounds
which is
very similar.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have the random elements. I can't remember, actually. It's been so long since I played it. I don't think it's got random elements for, like, success, but it does have random elements in terms of what spells you will have at any given time. But yeah, that's a good, fun, really simple to learn little game that reminds me quite a lot of Chaos.
Yep. Yeah, I was pleased, actually. When I played it loads as a younger person and then enjoyed it a lot, I was pleased that it still held up, basically, as a kind of tense, semi-random, slightly claustrophobic, because the arenas are all pretty small, kind of close quarters board game style tactical game. It seems really good, so I hope it succeeds.
It reminds me quite a lot of things like Frozen Synapse and Frozen Endzone, in terms of being turn-based, very much almost a board game on PC that wouldn't actually work as well as a board game. It works significantly better on computer, which is something that you can't say of a lot of board games, cough Blood Bowl.
But I think that was a little bit to do with the developers, though. Not necessarily the game.
Sorry, I thought that the PC port of Blood Bowl was an utter shambles. I know you disagree with me on that to some extent, and that's fair enough. I found it incredibly difficult to get to grips with, and on my old computer it took upwards of 3 actual minutes to load a match.
Well, that's just rubbish.
No
excuse for that.
My old computer wasn't amazing, but come on, if it could run sort of Shogun 2 Total War and things like that, then it can probably handle Blood Bowl.
Well, yeah, it's Blood Bowl. It's rendering a field and like 20 players. It's not that difficult, really.
Yeah. I admit I wasn't that impressed with the PC version of Blood Bowl, but that's an entirely different discussion. No, it's just a really good fun little game. And as I say, even though it's in an early state, the mechanics are solid enough that at this point he could probably release access to the beta or alpha client, as I suppose it is, to backers, and they would likely enjoy themselves quite a lot.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And delightfully, at the moment, he's used one of the classic XCOM noises for some of the like spell selection stuff, which is good to hear.
That was That was literally the first thing I noticed about the game, if I remember rightly. I think we were sat there on Skype and I clicked the sort of spell selection and he went, that was an XCOM noise!
Yep.
I'm so happy.
Beautiful, beautiful thing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's quite good.
What do we got coming up on the site? Well, hopefully that interview with Julian Gollop.
On the other hand, was not good. That was fucking terrible. Sorry, carry on. I just wanted to mention that.
What? Sorry? Was that
I said Shannon Tweed's attack of the groupies, on the other hand, was not good. That was terrible.
Yes. You can go and read Tim's review / Descent into Madness of Shannon Tweed's attack of the groupies. That's on the site.
I think I actually described it as a Lovecraftian episode, and that it's kind of a diary.
It was
sort of charting.
I'm just glad to see you're back in one piece, Tim, and you've come through it.
You made it through.
Sure about that. For the most part, I think.
You mostly made it through.
I am genuinely thinking, and this is something I kind of want more opinions from the readers and listeners on this, actually, is I kind of want... Okay, want is a strong word. I am considering doing sort of this for slightly... Well, for a number of other incredibly terrible games as well. I don't know whether that's something people would be interested in. I kind of want feedback on that. Because it's not really the quickest thing to do, nor is it particularly good for my mind.
No.
But if people enjoy them, I would be happy to provide them, I guess.
We also have Starpoint Gemini 2 preview up. We have the interview, kind of 2 interviews, I guess, with the Totem VR people. The first one and then kind of a follow-up. There will be the Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls review up when you are listening to this, and also all things Diablo 3 on Diablo IncGamers, of course, including hot details about Barbarian Leap animations.
Don't take the piss out of the Barbarian Leap animations. You two are terrible.
For God's sake, Paul, even on the thing itself, it said that despite looking like there was a difference, there was no mechanical difference.
Look,
that's kind of the definition of something that doesn't make any difference.
It's what the fans want to know, and that's what we provide.
Absolutely. Yeah, see, you can take the piss out of me in a few weeks, and I'm writing Dark Souls 2 lore articles going, no, see, because this thing that the cat says, right, this relates back to the first game.
Does this actually have a talking cat in it? Because the first game did.
It absolutely does, yes.
And the first game also had absolute bastards of cats that were like Sonic the Hedgehog and just rammed you into trees.
It doesn't have any of those that I've found.
No, but it has spiders, that's worse.
It does have spiders, yes.
At least with the cats I can go, oh, I was killed by a cat. You know, that's kind of cute, and it makes sense because cats are total bastards.
They were weird cats, though. They had weird triangular snout faces.
Yeah, they also had like really wide mouths.
Yeah,
like, if you ever actually looked at Alvina when she was speaking, that was the cat that ran that particular company. Her mouth was weird.
Yeah, it was. It was weird.
Anyway.
This cat looks more like a normal cat. Still got a slightly weird mouth, but...
Am I going to shriek Kitty when I see it?
Probably.
It moves around... It moves around the little hut that she lives in, so sometimes it's sat on the table, sometimes it's like pawing the wall, sometimes it's just like sat there. It's quite good.
So it's not just a freaky giant cat hanging out of a wall?
No.
Oh, okay.
Sized cat.
Okay, that's probably alright then, although I do remember that when I got to Alvina, I wasn't actually going Kitty, I was mostly going, thank God I'm here, those bastards in the forest just kept trying to stab me in the face and one of them's invisible.
And now they won't. Oh, well, there are more invisible people in forests though, so look forward to that.
I can live with that, it's the spiders that worry me.
Yeah, no invisible spiders.
No, they're visible, that's just as bad.
I don't know what's coming up on the site other than the interview with Julian Gollop, assuming it gets back to us in time.
I will probably
Wolf Among Us review, probably.
Sorry?
A Wolf Among Us Episode 3 review, probably.
That was what I was going to mention, that's finished downloading, so I will probably be doing stuff on that later.
There we go, and well done to Telltale for getting this one out within, a month-ish of the other one.
Can I talk about how pissed off I am with Telltale at the moment, though?
Yeah, you should, because it's an annoying thing.
Yeah, you know how The Wolf Among Us, like, they've just released episode 3 of 5 today? To celebrate half of the game being out, they've just dropped the price on Steam for the next few days by 40%. So all the people who actually bought in at episode 1, when 1/5 of the game was out, paid full price. Now that 3/5 of the game are out, you can get it cheaper. Isn't that good? That's a real way to reward the people who actually bought in early.
Do you think when episode 5 comes out, it'll be down at like 75% off?
Probably. No, at that point, actually, they will probably leave the price at full for at least a week, so that people will buy it at full price, because they'll go, oh, the full thing's out, I'll buy it now. And then a week later, they'll drop the price to try and sucker more people in.
I mean, this is just kind of teaching people with episodic games to wait, isn't it, really?
At this point, it is, yeah. I mean, it's wrong to think of it like early access, but when it's a game that's, you know, you're not releasing the full thing, you're drip feeding people with the content, it does feel slightly wrong to actually drop the price before the entire thing is even out, because it does kind of feel like punishing people who bought in early. Okay, you get the first 2 episodes early, but everyone else gets it cheaper.
I mean, yeah, sure, I'll put it on sale when the whole thing's out and it's been out for a few months, that's totally fine, but...
That makes sense.
It's a bit naughty doing it halfway through, really.
I got quite annoyed when they did this on Xbox, where right as the game was released, they dropped the price.
Yep, they did. It was cheap at Christmas. What was I talking about? What was coming up on the site? And I'd run out of things, so...
Things will be coming up on the site.
Stuff will be happening.
Yeah, we will have articles and
I've been playing Rome 2's latest DLC, but I was going to play it yesterday evening and then had no electricity, so that kind of put a dampener on those plans.
You'll do anything to get out of doing Rome 2, won't you, Peter?
It was me. I ran into that power line.
You got her drunk. You planned this out.
Yeah. Damn it. Found me out. So yeah, there'll be stuff on the site. And there'll be another podcast next week. Till then, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.